meeting. Thank you to everyone who is here. We appreciate your attendance. And we will go ahead and get started. I know we're running behind and I apologize for that. I was in another meeting and so my apologies. Ms. Bonet, if you would like to jump right into it, that would be great. Thank you.
Yes, today is our public input meeting. We're required to hold a public input meeting and we would love to get some information from the public. I think everybody here has heard the presentation a couple times, except I'm not trying to point you out, sir, but if you have any public input, you can help us because we've all heard it from this presentation. So just to point out our FY26 budget priorities, student achievement, of course, is first. One thing that the most important thing behind student achievement is teacher quality, recruitment, and retention, and then also financial stewardship of our dollars. We are almost to the end of the legislative session in Columbia. New information comes out. We're almost to the end. However, I don't know how long it's going to take before the conference committee actually comes to an agreement on what the House passed versus what the Senate passed. Something interesting that came out today in our out of last week's meetings, just for y'all to know about this funny, is that the House Property Tax Legislative Subcommittee is discussing allowing a 50% property tax exemption on the fair market value of watercraft and boats, which means that those dollars won't come to school districts because that's one of the areas where we get operating funds from, is from boats. The fiscal impact statement that was prepared at the state level says, and I quote, "We anticipate that the counties will offset any property tax revenue reduction by a millage rate increase in the allowable." So we'll see if that actually happens, but that would be for the 26-27 year. So there's things that are coming out all the time, even this late in the game, but that would affect us the next year if that passes.
So they're
Not for 25-26.
right, take that into account.
Then,
We'll think about that for next year though. We'll put that in the notes.
they anticipate making that permanent, and that's just something temporary, or?
It's part of a bill that is it's from the House.
It's permanent. It's a reduction on.
But so
Property taxes.
would that affect us?
Yes, because we get,
But I thought ours were already lower than what they were talking about capping it at
Same.
in
I
this
thought-
county.
Yes.
Because I actually had a conversation with this with one of our legislators, expressing my concern, and he said he did not anticipate that Dorchester County would be affected because we were already lower than what they're discussing moving it to.
Yes.
So I don't know if that's true, but I did
okay.
hear that. So I guess we'll wait and see. It's what we have to see.
Because Charleston and Berkeley are significantly higher, I think, on the voting census, right? And then we think that ours was below. So it would affect them.
Yeah. We were already low.
That would be a settlement rate from the county auditor, but of course not. But that would not affect us for this year, so I just.
Oh, I think it's good for us to know ahead of time
Yes.
with their thinking.
So we'll see what happens with the conference committee and if they're actually will come to an agreement and then deliver the budget to the governor by after May 8th when the legislative session ends. We've discussed about our different sources of funding, and one of the things, Ms. Powell, that we were talking about is so for our general fund. So boat taxes are part of our operations that we get in the general fund, which is because it's non-occupied property. So that's in the blue bucket. We also have the purple bucket, which is our special revenue funds. They have to be maintained separately from the general fund, so we have a separate accounting structure for those. Good examples of those are Title I and the IDEA funds. They also support our programs for the school district. And then the Education Improvement Act Fund is also state funding. We're able to use that. That's our state aided classrooms, which we point out each month whenever we're doing our transfer out of that. We'll get into our general fund for operations as well for any classrooms. Our 8% funding is for our capital projects, money that we get from the service millage. And then the referendum funding is specific to the referendum that passed in May of 2024 for those specific projects that we listed in that referendum. So for our projected general fund revenues, this current year, we had 284 million proposed for next year that we know of right now is 292 million. So that's an increase of 8.6 million. Right now, the auditor has given us, that first line is $5.5 million increase from the county property taxes, not from a millage increase. That's just the growth in assessments and growth in our area, but without a millage increase. A little history of our operating millage increases, 0 in very middle, 0. We haven't gotten anything since the 18-19 year. We could ask for millage each year. The increase limitation in that third and fourth columns from the left tells you what our consumer price index plus our growth percentage just in our district alone would allow us to get it. Starting at the top line, we could have gotten 6 mils, 5 mils, 10.8 mils, 18.8 when it was really high in that 23-24 year, 13.4. And then this new year coming up for 25-26, the state sent us our calculation that our area grew by 6.94%. We could ask for 12.4 mils. Our legislation that would allow us to do that. So we could ask for current year plus 3 years of look back. That's where we get the 55.39 mils. Not that we're asking for that. That's my caveat, but just to know what we are allowed to do. Our general fund revenues, that's based on our 25 year. We depend very heavily on state revenues. That's 72.2%. Very small amount of federal revenues in the general fund, mainly that's impact aid, which is the federal cards that goes directly to our general fund. We have some other funding from local. The biggest part of that is our interest investment savings, that bucket. Our expenditures by function, a large blue section of the circle indicates instruction. Those are folks who are directly in the classrooms. The orange going to the left bottom is another 10%, which those are folks who are media specialists and nurses and folks who also have an impact. They may not be directly in the classroom, but they are also impact students daily. And then the school management is 7%. So that makes up 77% of our expenditures are directly related to students and instruction. Yes, so on our salary study, just wanted to make sure that everyone is aware that of the 10 districts that were here in our salary study, Dorchester School District 2 had the lowest ratio of central office leaders to students. Just thought that was a good talk. 86.3% of our expenditures are in salaries and benefits. We really try to put as much towards our people, not just instructional folks, but our classified and all of our support staff. Try to pay them as much as we can. The other 13.7% is for fixed costs, for energy, for various programs, but the bulk of our budget is people. Here is our current teacher salary comparison. In the different categories, we have bachelor's plus 18, which the state is proposing to do away with that category. Master's plus 30, and then the doctorate. We compared ourselves with the first line in the blue. Beaufort is the second line, Berkeley, and then Charleston. So the light blue line, Charleston, just they outdo us in every category. But Beaufort and Berkeley aren't too far ahead, but they are still ahead of us in every category for their teacher salaries. We have done a great job. We would like to take pride in this, that in FY 2018, our starting salary for a teacher was $36,124. And if you jump down to FY 25, we're at 49,000. So that is a huge jump. We do the best we can with the funding that we get. We have included in the budget proposal that first line item of a $1,500 increase for teachers to get them to 50,500. Another 500 will get them to 51,000. That's as far as we'll go. Just wanted to, we would like to get them to 2,500 or 3,000, but we will probably end up settling on the 51,000. Go into that in just a bit further. Our class sizes versus our class ratios. Mr. Doherty, you are great at this slide, if you don't mind.
Yeah, when you look at this chart here, we were projected about 1,000 students, went down 595 students. We lost 400 students in elementary, 195 in the middle school. We actually gained about 90 students in the high schools. And so with that caveat, we looked at it, we had projected that 1,000 growth. And so we did allocations based on those numbers. So right now you're going to see, we are going to propose to, I believe it's 52 allocations for middle school, high school, elementary, and also taking district office staff. And those will give us about 52 reductions in allocations due to the numbers. That's almost a 1,500 swing. So you can see that. Class sizes, again, when we look at that after those allocations, will still remain lower than the state average. Still, we went up a little bit in our class sizes. However, we're still staying within underneath those parameters and those guidelines. And so, again, trying to find as much money that we put toward our teachers and our staff, dollars we currently have. Again, trying to make sure we reward those that have a direct impact with our students. We are not cutting any programming. We continue to have our programming that we have at the high schools and the middle schools, performing arts. We're not cutting any of those programming. And so we feel good about where we're at, trying to kind of right size the district with those allocations. And so that's kind of what we're calling. Nobody is losing their jobs. We hire typically about 300 people per year. This year, we just won't be hiring as many, we'll be absorbing some of those positions we do have. So, yep.
As Mr. Doherty was pointing out, our proposed reductions. Or do you want me to? Okay. So our proposed reductions in elementary, middle, high, district office, and we also are projecting some AT&T telecommunication charges. So we have total proposed reductions for next year of $5.1 million.
Yeah, so that's the big chart at the very top. If people are looking in, you can see that it's actually 54, not 52 positions that we are right sizing, not filling for next year. You can see that type of dollars that brings in for us to help pay our teachers.
So the bottom portion of the screen shows that our teacher step is at $2.1 million, and that's a mandate every year. The state legislature requires for the teachers to get a step. So if they are eligible, if they've worked in the district long enough for a whole year, then they get a step. We also, a mandate from the state is for bus driver salaries. Also estimated amount for hazardous transportation fees that's been stated from the State Department. We have some fixed costs with our contract for the SROs. That is 3% for CPI to go up, and then energy costs. We were told by both of our energy providers that there would be an increase there, and then just increased costs from maintenance, materials, and services just across the district, taking care of our 30-some buildings. We built in some funding there too as required. So total for required increases and mandates is $3.1 million. Some pending state actions. Yeah.
So there's still two things in Columbia that we're waiting to hear how they may or may not impact us. The first is the increase in health insurance. That House recommended or put forward that there would be no increase for employers, but an increase for employees. And the Senate turned around and came back and added some additional funding for health insurance and removed the increase to employees, but said that there could be an increase to employers. So until they get together on their conference committee to decide how that's going to work out, because there's a difference between the House and the Senate, we won't know how that may impact us. But we gave an estimate based on what the Senate had said originally was 3.9% increase for employers. We heard a different percentage, 4.6 last week, so we're really just waiting to see how that all pans out.
We're not sure if it's gonna impact the teacher or the employer or the employer.
Correct. And we don't know how much it will impact the employer because they did put some more money toward it, but that all goes through the formulas. We don't know, we don't have any projections on how that may impact us.
I see.
And then the other is, House Ways and Means gave a favorable as amended report to expand parental leave to 12 weeks. It is now 6 weeks. It's been that way for a couple of years. And that could impact us as well, but that also has not been finalized as of yet. The potential impact there of $600,000 is an estimate based on what our estimate was when they implemented the first 6 weeks. So again, until we get closer to the end of the session and after the conference committee, we won't know what those impacts may be, but we wanted to put them on here. They're not added into any of the numbers yet, but just wanted to put them out there so that everyone is aware.
Section is our classroom allocations. As Mr. Doherty said, we're not cutting any positions. No one's losing their jobs, and we will have to bring on some additional new allocations just for growth across the district in some certain areas. So those first two are to supplement our arts departments based in the areas of growth. And then also for special education teachers and teaching assistants based on that projected enrollment there of 16.5 positions for $1 million.
It's currently, I believe, on the first row, I believe they were sharing the halftime teacher of those schools. So now just bringing on full-time related arts in those schools, so they can be sharing teachers. So it's programming, so which is going to be beneficial for those students and those students.
Then the bottom section regarding our content specialists in instructional technology positions. These were positions that were formerly paid through the general fund, through the district. We had 26 positions last year that were able to be paid through various funding, Title I, Title II, and general fund. With restructuring and right sizing, those positions have been reduced to 11. Also with the fact that the federal funding in titles is no longer going to be allowable for those positions. So we right size that. It's to 11 positions now, 1.1. So those are not new positions. They were just having to be fully paid out of general. So this slide is a little different from what I uploaded to y'all's board packet. In the first section, we are talking about our salary increase priorities. The first line item is the step for classified and certified folks that are not paid on teacher scale. So this would include our admin folks. So the 1.6 million does not require any additional millage increase. So everyone else, so the teachers are getting a step, and now the classified and non-teachers are getting a step here. The next section is $1,500 increase to all steps of the teacher salary scale, which that amount is 3.4. We only need 1.3 to get us to that full $1,500, which would be a $3 million increase. And then 1% increase for classified and certified staff that are not paid on the teacher scale. That's to equate to the $1,500 that the teachers are getting. So kind of keeping everybody on a level playing field of their increases. The next section for other salary considerations that would require an additional millage is the additional 500 to get the teachers to 51,000, and that's gets us requires 2.6 mils, which gets us to a request of 7.6. We grayed out the other two line items because we were we wanted to show that our needs are really. What we really would love to do for our teachers and our staff is to give another 1,000, another 2% COLA. So these are really our top salary considerations, but after several conversations with council members and legislators, and thanks to our board members who have been working so hard behind the scenes for that, the county council has seen very favorable of the 7.6 mils to get us to 51,000 for the teachers. So while we wanted to show the 12.8 mils as the next step and the 16.5 as the total, we will probably stop at the 7.6 mils. So just to show you a summary, this is what we had presented in the original packet, in your board packets, as what we had been presenting, with the 16.5 mils to get us to $299 million in our budget for next year. This is the new slide that just indicates what the millage request in Dorchester County Council will be if y'all approve this later this evening in the board meeting, that we would be asking for 7.6 mils to get us to 295 million. And that's getting the teachers to 51,500. That's with a $2,000 increase. No, I'm sorry, 51,000 with the 2,000 increase.
$2,000.
Yes.
Yes.
So that's just a little something different than what was uploaded. We wanted to point that out. So we stopped at the 7.6 mils just to show what that would be on a business that is assessed at $500,000. It would be an increase of 228. So that's second line there. But if they wanted to give us more, we're just showing options. And then the calculation how that's figured is $6 per 100,000 of assessed property times the number of mills increase.
Yeah, I got a question. How much is it per mill? What are we getting per mill?
Go back to this slide up here on the top right. The value of the mill is on the top right is 432,743. And that was the amount that was provided to us from the county auditor on our last information. But did I capture everything? So this slide represents proposed funding and use from other sources that are not general fund. We have some 8% funding, Title I and Medicaid funding for these items. We will work all the way through the top piece until we get to where we can properly secure some other 8% funding if we have some savings. These are budget requests that came from departments and school leaders and from cabinet leaders, personnel, heavy personnel, things that would really love to add to the budget. These were not included in the budget request. So the total of these is $13.3 million. Again, a lot of it is increases for personnel, a longevity stipend that we didn't include. Just didn't include that. So we wanted to show those, though those are necessities, but we just know the funding and just the economy and just things we wanted to focus on differently, but we could get putting funding into the instructional leaders, definitely to those who are dealing with the kids. This is our budget calendar. We're working in the, seems like a long ways away. We've come a long way and we still haven't finished, but we're moving through. We'll go to county council on May 12th for that presentation, which that's what y'all will be voting on this evening at the board meeting. So did I capture everything, Dr. Rumley? And Ms. Bates, I know that y'all are working with them.
Excellent presentation. Board members, if you have any questions, we'll open it up for public comment as well. Thank you very much, Ms. Meunier and team. Appreciate y'all. Excellent presentation. Okay. Do we have any public comments today, this afternoon? No, we do have.
Weird here. I'm the only one.
Well, thanks for
We're glad
coming.
glad you're here.
Appreciate you being here. Any,
Yeah, okay. Well, it was interesting. Thank you for going through all of that. I had no idea what the level of the budget is for the school district, and having been to other budgeting things and seen in business, I can appreciate the level of detail and all the work that went into doing that and all the finding it. So, thank you.
I may be the only one that don't know you. Would you introduce yourself?
Oh, no, I don't know anybody.
yeah, I was gonna say, I
I
don't.
don't know anybody in this room. All right, my name is Jay Tayo, officially James, but I go by Jay. Lived in Legend Oaks for over 25 years. Put 2 daughters through Dorchester District 2 and have 1 teaching here as well.
Oh,
She's over at Fort Dorchester High School.
Were you at our meeting on Friday night? I thought so. Yeah, wonderful.
You had a chat with my wife for quite some
Yes,
time,
I did. Yes, I.
so, as I'm told. So, here, one of the questions I had, and I'm really here to learn and try to understand all what's going on. I was looking at my tax bills, for my house and for, cars and things like that. And there, money from that seems to go to school operating expenses. That was an indication.
Right. It's a little confusing because so the way they do it, it does show where the money is taken out. But then if you look further down, there's an actual credit.
Of the same amount.
Right, of the same amount. So you have to further examine your tax. Yes.
Yes.
So, right, so go back and look at it and you'll see what should be taken out. But then you'll also see that credit that is returned to you. So it's on owner occupied homes.
Right.
So if you have a second home, or a rental property, it's not the case, but only on that. So, yes,
So I was looking and it said, okay, the total number is
sure.
a
Yes,
relatively high number,
Yeah.
right?
yeah.
And then
So,
not quite half of it is then, oh, wait a minute, that came from the state, you don't have to pay that, you're only charged X amount of dollars.
right, so,
So I don't know, well, so how much does the school district actually get? Is that wipe out all of what the school district gets?
correct.
So we don't get any for operations. There is a amount for school debt for the district's
I saw
debt.
that too.
But the operations debt, it will say literally the same amount, and then you go to the bottom, the credit will be the same exact amount that you're not charged.
So that's due to the Act 388 legislation. That's the reason, that's why it is that way. It is that way across the entire state of South Carolina. So, school districts, communities, counties that have, a lot of homes, owner occupied homes, as the, primary people who are living in their home as their primary residence, they, do not get nearly as much operating money as districts that have large numbers of industries and businesses. Because the industry and the businesses are taxed at that 6%, and so they do contribute to school operating.
I feel like we're in a very residential
Exactly.
bedroom,
Yes.
say bedroom community, but
That's what it is.
Yes, that's exactly right, yes.
That's why you see the disparities between Charleston and us.
So we do get operating money from vehicles, boats, RVs, all those types of
it's
things.
definitely.
Yes, well, that's why we would be concerned if there is, right, that would affect us, exactly.
Get a millage, right?
Yeah. Any other questions?
I was interested in the discussion on the positions. Obviously, with the daughter in the district, right? And just hearing about things going on in the schools and where things are, in terms of bringing on teachers or teachers going, so that. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We appreciate you being here. Thank you for your time. Okay, well, if there's nothing else for the good of the meeting.
You guys have heard it and y'all can just recite it back.
Every slide.
All right, well, thank you very much then, and we will adjourn this meeting.